Hello, I'm Erica Gilchrist, the Unstoppable Woman, speaker, author, and trainer, and welcome to WTF, Women Thriving Fearlessly, where we reveal the personal stories of successful people to inspire women to thrive. And we're here today with the Executive Director for Snow City Arts, Miss Carrie Spittler.
Hi, my name is Paige, and my place is called my dream destination. It's me there and my dog Gia, and she's eating a coconut, and I'm in an inner tube. There's palm trees and coconuts. The water would be salt water, but then when you get the water out of there, you could drink it, and it wouldn't be salt water. It would be like Lake Michigan water. It's tropical, and it's hot all year long, and the sand like goes in between your toes.
How do you get to this place?
You have to dream.
A hospitalized, sick child. That's a nightmare for any parent. Not wanting to leave the bedside of your child, trusting blindly in the medical professionals who care for them, and worrying about their emotional and mental well-being. But what if there was a way to bring joy, education, and creativity to your child while they're still in the hospital? Sounds unlikely and too good to be true, right? No way. Such a thing exists. Snow City Arts provides one-on-one instruction in the visual arts, creative writing, music, theater, and filmmaking to little patients at children's hospitals across Chicago. And we're here today to speak with the Executive Director, Carrie Spittler, to learn more about how she thrives in what could be a heart-wrenching environment. So Carrie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We really appreciate your time and coming down here to speak with us. So talk to us a little bit about Snow City Arts.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Snow City Arts was founded 16 years ago with the idea of helping students, young people who are also patients. So they're in the hospital. They have maybe a one-day visit to the hospital, or maybe they're spending a fair amount of time there because they have a chronic illness. And our mission is to continue their education arc while they're in the hospital. So we use the arts to do that. Okay. So it's an arts education program focused specifically on working with children in the hospital.
So you don't have a remote location somewhere else. All of the education is done actually in the hospital?
That's correct.
Okay.
Actually in 4 hospitals in Chicago.
Oh, very nice.
We were founded at Rush, and our home is there. Our admin home as well. We're also at Lurie Children's Hospital, Cook County Hospital, okay, and also Children's Hospital, University of Illinois.
Excellent. Very nice. Are there any other things that you would teach besides the arts?
Well, the incredible thing about the arts, as you probably know well, is not only are you teaching art when you're teaching art, but you're drawing in so many other aspects. Mm-hmm. So most of our projects start with a little bit of research. A young person might say their favorite animal is an elephant. This is actually a true story. So we did some research with her on how do they reproduce, what is their life like, what do they eat. And so it starts with that basic research component and then develops however the student would like it. In this case, the young woman wanted to make a film. So she made her own film using a green screen. She wrote the voiceover, and she filmed the entire thing, learned how to edit. It's a beautiful story using her stuffed animals.
How about that?
They get married, they go to Hawaii on a honeymoon, and then they have some babies.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Elephants want babies too. So
Absolutely.
Is this done specifically for one child, or do you gather all of the children in the hospital in a classroom style?
It varies. Most of it, one child, bedside. Sometimes kids are not well enough to leave the room and be in a group, so most of it happens bedside. but we have great spaces in our partner locations called Idea Labs.
Okay.
So we do have a room where we can bring students who are well enough to leave the room, and it's considered medical-free zone. So doctors and nurses cannot come in without knocking and asking first.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
it's
wonderful.
great space in a hospital.
How is this paid for? Is this something that's covered by the insurance of the child, or how is it funded?
It's actually free to students and families, which is an incredible opportunity, right?
Very nice.
So we raise all of our funding from government sources, foundation sources, individuals, and then we also have contracts with each of our hospital partners who pay for partial services.
Okay. So if I'm a parent and my child is ill in one of those 4 hospitals, is it something that happens automatically, or is there something that I would have to sign my child up to receive?
Happens automatically. There are child life specialists in each of the hospitals, and it's their job to both advocate and inform parents about what will be happening to their child while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And we work very closely with them. So
Okay.
they're our first check-in when we walk in the morning. They tell us what the census is, who's on the floor, who might be getting out of surgery, so we may want to hold off on them,
Mhm.
or if there's a new student who's ready to go and is bored, looking for something to do, we're on it. We show up.
Excellent. So let's say I'm a mom, and that's my baby, and my baby is ill. Could I be in the room?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And many parents stay, especially for the first couple of sessions. But if it's a parent who is working, they're not there, and so we'll
Right.
interact directly. And then after some time, even for the parents who start out with us in the room, they see it as an opportunity to step away and to go get a cup of coffee,
Right.
make some phone calls, just use that time wisely.
And to debrief too, because I'm sure it's an emotional, mental, and spiritual drain on any parent to
Absolutely.
have their child ill to the point where they need to be hospitalized.
Absolutely.
So let's talk to me a little bit about how you became executive director. Like
Sure.
what drew you to Snow City Arts?
Well, I have a background of working in social justice work,
Mhm.
and access as a word and as an idea has been a key motivator for me in choosing where I go, how I spend my time, how I approach the work that I do. And Snow City Arts is a unique organization that brings together the arts, which I'm also passionate about, and this idea of access that these children, while they're in the hospital, Chicago Public School policy has been until very recently that you would not get a tutor unless you were there for 10 days in a row.
Oh,
So we fill this gap
right.
that is so unique. We'll work with you if you're there just for one night.
Mm-hmm.
And because of our partnership with the Chicago Public School, we'll send a report to your school so that you can get credit for the time you spend with us. So this idea of creating access to a basic right to continued education for these children was critical for me.
And when you saw that, you were like, I'm in, count me in, I want to be part of this.
Initially, I resisted, like many of us do. But I had a very good friend, colleague who works at Columbia College, who knew the previous director, the founder, actually at Snow City Arts. And he said, you should check this out. They're going to be going through some transition. I really think you should consider it. And the position was actually open a year before I looked at it, and I said no.
Okay.
And it reopened. And the same friend said, really,
Like,
you need
seriously.
to look at this.
He's like, Carrie.
Now's
Carrie.
the time.
Okay. And you listened
Do
that
this
time.
or our friendship could be compromised.
and you stepped in and you said
I
yes.
did.
Excellent.
I did.
The instructors, tell me about the instructors. Are they required to have certain licenses, accreditation in order to be able to do that?
Interestingly enough, not accreditation or licensing. However, we do require that they are professional practicing artists
Okay.
in their field. So our visual artists are showing artwork. Our filmmakers are submitting films to productions. Our musicians play in bands outside of our work. So they all work part-time for us. And it's our vision that the work that they do for us is inspired by their own work. right? It's a tough environment to work in. It's
Mm-hmm.
emotionally draining. And so we want them to have that space to both emotionally recharge, physically recharge, but also recharge that creativity.
Right. And I'm a creative person. I dance and I'm an actress and I see, I'm in front of a camera right now. So I'm combining stuff that I like to do. I like to be in front of the camera. I like to run my mouth. So this works out really, really well for me. So someone who is a professional artist, right?
Absolutely.
So let's say they're a professional artist and they come to Snow City Arts and they say, you know what, I want to contribute. What's the process for them to be able to do that?
We actually have a very deep commitment to our current artist, our artist in general. So they are actually on staff, which is very unique. They are not on contract. We are committed to their vision and really providing strong base of part-time work for them. So unfortunately, it's rare. Fortunately and unfortunately, it's rare for us to have job openings.
Ah, okay.
Most of our artists have been with us for about 6 or 7 years. And so they are loyal to us. We are loyal to them. But if something does open up, it's actually very common for us to get a referral from one of our current artists.
Okay.
They know well what it takes to work in a hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is the critical piece. Flexibility, flexibility, flexibility.
Oh, absolutely.
We are low in the food chain in the hospital.
Oh,
right?
my goodness. I'm sure. Unfortunately, I'm sure. Any plans to expand to other hospitals?
There are plans just in the works. So
Okay.
I came to Snow City Arts, as I indicated, after a little bit of a tumultuous transition period. And just in the last year, we undertook a strategic planning process that would really set a vision for our next 3 years. And one of my other goals, as you might guess, is to try to bring all of our constituencies together in the same room, or at least the same larger conversation, and really get on board with where we were headed.
Okay.
So expansion within Chicago is on the books for sometime in the next 3 years. And
Oh,
we're
that's
starting
good
to
news.
think about that already.
That's good news for
Yeah.
parents. It's good news for children. It's good news for
Absolutely.
artists.
Absolutely.
That's good news for everyone involved. So
Absolutely.
as the executive director, do you go inside of the hospitals much, or is most of what you do on the outside making sure that the logistics and everything function properly?
Most of my work is on the outside. However, those times where I know I'm burned out, uninspired, for whatever reason, I do have the luxury of calling up an artist and saying, do you have any students today? Can I come over? And I can go over for the day and shadow an artist.
And see
really
that,
see
I'm
it up
so glad
close.
you said that, because with what you do, executive director of any organization, I'm sure can be very stressful at times. So my question was going to be, how do you deal with that? What do you do? And you're fortunate enough where you're in an organization
Absolutely.
that specializes in making people feel better.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
to be able to say, hey, just gonna come down there. If you don't mind making me feel better, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
So in building the exposure and everything with Snow City Arts, I'm sure that job is kind of demanding on you. How do you personally deal with the stresses in your life?
I think there's a couple key things that are usually pretty high on my list. So I know it's a cliched phrase, but work-life balance is key. And I've been actually in a phase of way too much work, not enough personal life. So over the weekend, I sort of gave myself a talking to and said, there's always work. You will never have enough done.
Right.
There is always more to do.
That's right.
And no one knows how much time you're putting in except for you. And realized that I was really at that point of diminishing returns, that even when I wasn't working, I was thinking about working. And when I was working, I was thinking, I wish I wasn't working, right? And so my productivity had just took a nosedive. So really stepping back, putting myself on regular 9 to 5 or 8 to 5.
8 to 5, yeah.
So that's key. I'm also a huge fan of acupuncture. I started actually initially because I was getting migraines.
Okay.
I think work stress in a previous position, and acupuncture for me on about every 3 weeks is this system of sort of realignment, realigning energy, realigning where I'm headed, what I'm thinking about. It's an hour laying on a table that no one calls me. I don't have to respond to anyone. And just, it gives me that time to reset.
How often are you able to break away from all of that? Are you able to do it as often as you'd like?
Never as often as I would like. But I try to fit it in, especially thinking about when downtimes are in the cycle. So we're just coming off a big fundraising event. I've had a lot of big deadlines for planning for 2015. Most of those major deadlines are met, and they're waiting on feedback to come in from others. I'm actually headed out of town this weekend to see my sister, her husband, and my nephew, my only nephew. So really trying to fit that in.
Okay.
January, February is usually slower for us. So we're in Chicago.
Right.
Perfect time to get out of town.
Exactly.
So usually try to schedule a hot, sunny, warm
destination.
place.
I know. I'm planning it in my head as we speak. So if I'm someone who's passionate about social justice issues and it is my goal to do what you do, what advice would you offer someone who wants to get into that business?
Sure. I think there's a couple things that are critical to keep in mind or be thinking about. One is find people who are doing the work that you want to be doing and start creating a relationship with them. You never know where that's going to lead.
Mentorship is awesome.
Mentorship is key. I also find in social justice work, one of the critical things that's not technically measured, no one's keeping track of it, but showing up. It's so important to show up and listen. And when you do have something to say, you have to be willing to step forward and say it.
Yeah, whether people are going to agree with you or not.
But the showing up piece is critical. You will learn from every meeting, from every gathering, from every talk, something that will stick with you and you'll pull out of your pockets at some later time and put into action.
Excellent. I love the showing up part. A lot of people make excuses.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I'm in. It's like, okay, great. So we have a meeting Friday. Like, ooh, Friday.
Yes.
You know, Fridays, I usually go out drinking or whatever.
Absolutely.
Whatever the reasons are. But people
Absolutely.
reveal themselves. And when they say they're in and then they don't show up, then you know they're
People
not.
notice.
Yes,
People
absolutely.
notice.
People watch you even when you don't realize you're being watched.
Absolutely.
So is there a woman, past or present, that you can think of that is a really good example of a woman thriving fearlessly?
I have a couple people in mind.
Okay.
Two of them both former bosses. My supervisor wasn't my supervisor initially, but Marka Bristow, who is the president and CEO of Access Living. They are Chicago's disability rights organization. And I started at Access Living. I planned their annual fundraiser. My boss left after I had been there for 2 years. And my boss did me a huge favor and said to Marka, you should promote Gary.
How about that?
I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. And Marka said, great, the job's yours if you want it. And she empowered me to learn the realm of fundraising, nonprofit work, management opportunities, leadership opportunities. And she herself is an incredible advocate. In addition to her work in Chicago, she was the leader of the National Council on Disability during my time there. She had been appointed by Clinton, and now she's doing international disability rights work.
Oh my goodness. We need to have her as a guest on the show.
She's incredible. Incredible. My other previous boss, Rebecca Sive, my very first job, real job out of college. I just learned so much from her. She's such a strategist, how to prepare for a meeting, how to work in an office. I mean, just simple things that you don't learn in school. And just so smart and so dedicated to the work that she was doing. She was a great model. I'm in touch with both of them. Mark and I actually share a birthday, so we have breakfast either on our birthday or our 6-month birthday, whichever works.
How about that? That's awesome.
Love it. And my sister is always inspiration. I mean, she's an engineer. She's moved out of engineering into project management. She's a mom, a wife, I mean, to me, that's incredible.
So it sounds like you have a really great power circle.
Definitely.
So speaking of power circle and having people in it, at any point during your career, and not just at Snow City Arts, did you find that you perhaps had to step away from some relationships because they were hindering you in some form or fashion?
Not necessarily from personal relationships, but my job previous to Snow City Arts was at the Neighborhood Writing Alliance, a social justice organization, literary arts. So it was a combination of social justice and the arts again. I had been there for 10 years, and it was certainly time for me to leave. I knew that a couple of years before I left. One of the things I know that I need to work on is to know when to step away when it's the right time for me. So to me, it felt like walking away from a huge commitment. And I had developed friends among our writers, among our volunteer workshop leaders, many staff members, many board members. And many of them are certainly still in my life. But making that choice to leave was very challenging for me.
Okay.
I had become really the keeper of the mission.
Got it.
And it was a tough choice.
I'm sure.
And it was tough for them too. They had a couple rough years after I left, and they have actually closed. The writers, who I just are such an inspiration, have kept the writing groups going as a volunteer endeavor. So they are a great inspiration. But it was a tough choice to leave,
I'm sure,
what felt like family to me.
Do you still keep in touch with them?
I do.
Oh, good.
do.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
relationships are still there.
They
It just wasn't the
are.
right environment at the
Not
time.
the right environment. And there's a few relationships I have let go of
Okay.
and walking away.
And that's important. You know,
Absolutely.
if you want to live life authentically and under your own terms, there's some relationships that are just not conducive to that. And it is difficult sometimes to walk away. For me, it's spooky how easy it is for me to let people go now. But I've reached that point. I wasn't always like that, but that's so necessary. So, Carrie, really simple question. How can women thrive?
I think committing to themselves that they are the most important person in their lives and keeping that front and center in every decision that's made. And understanding and recognizing it doesn't mean that you always put yourself first in the decision, but that if you're choosing to put somebody or something else first, that you're consciously doing it.
Right.
That you know you're saying to yourself, I'm setting myself aside for now. It's okay.
And knowing the difference. Absolutely. So if someone wants to support Snow City Arts, how do they do that?
Oh, lots of ways. The easiest, though, is certainly through our website. We're at snowcityarts.org. There's a big donate button at the top. They can send us a check. If they have a brilliant idea for our work, if they are a designer, if they are a printer, if they want to donate services, send us a quick email. I'm at Carrie@snowcityarts.org. We love finding projects that fit the interests and the passions of the people who come to us.
Okay. And Carrie, if there's anything that you want our viewers to know, the one thing you want them to take away from this interview, what would that be?
I think the one thing I haven't mentioned is how important coaching is. I have been working with a coach for about the last 6 months who luckily came to me through one of our partners who's providing the services to us for free, which is even better.
Right. My favorite four-letter F word.
But I love, and have grown so much by working with a coach. And it really does blend what I'm looking for personally in my life, what I'm looking for professionally, and covers those aspects in a very seamless way. But creates this incredible relationship where you can reflect back to yourself. Right. And somebody also in those moments where you need to be held accountable for something you committed to do. Coaches are great at doing that.
Yeah. They're like, hey, Carrie, you said you were going to do this.
Is it done?
Right. Is it done? If not, why? And when is it going to get done?
Let's set the next deadline. Absolutely.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us here on WTF Women Thriving Fearlessly. And sitting here talking to you, it's very clear why you are a guest on this show. You are someone who's thriving fearlessly. And thank you for the service that you provide to these children. For those of you who are not aware of the services that they have, I do encourage you to go to the website snowcityarts.org to find out more. If you love what it is that they do, we encourage you to support them. When we have services like this, that serves not just a physical need, not just a mental need, but emotional and spiritual need. We need to continue to support them. And Carrie, thank you so much for all that you do. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. I'm Erica Gilchrist, award-winning speaker, author, and trainer. And thank you for watching this episode of WTF, Women Thriving Fearlessly. While you're here, go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel and be sure to share this video with all your friends and all your social networks. And head on over to theunstoppablewoman.net where we can take your questions and comments. And until we speak again, thrive fearlessly.